Stay on this topic of retail now and bring in Columbia Business School professor Mark Cohen. Mark, good to have you here. Thanks so much for being with us. You just heard Emily break down that disastrous retail sales report. I guess the question I have now is, as lockdowns begin to ease this month and next month, which segments of the retail industry do you think are going to emerge the winners here?
I don't think the cessation of lockdown is going to have any meaningful effect for the balance of May. You know, counteracting this move across parts of the country to open things up is this expanding unemployment statistic. And so it's anybody's guess whether we keep piling 3 million people a week onto the unemployment rolls as folks become more and more fixated on the unlikelihood that they're coming back to work. They're not likely to go shopping. And there's also the fear factor. You know, this pandemic hasn't abated. And so the fear that I have, I think a lot of people have, is that as these markets open up, there'll be surges in infection and unfortunately death that follows it, which will have a tremendously chilling effect on attempts throughout the United States to reopen.
Mark, JCPenney will reportedly file bankruptcy today. And what do you think the future is for that chain? Reports suggest that they might close up to 200 stores, but you know better than anyone, once a retailer goes into bankruptcy, especially one with a flawed business model like a JCPenney, they may not emerge. And if they emerge, they are a scarred retailer. And when that happens, a lot of vendors might not just ship them product.
You know, it's a really sad tale because, in fact, we don't know when the pandemic is going to be under control. We don't know when this crisis will abate. The optimism that's being bandied about in Washington, I don't subscribe to in any way. You have a company that's been in serial decline for years and years and years, that operates under this enormous cloud of debt, carries with it hundreds of stores in malls that are likely to fail. Now, the question is it JCPenney that's killing these B and C malls, or are these malls and their lack of traffic putting a tremendous issue in the hands of JCPenney? I frankly think there is very little likelihood that Penneys will essentially come out of this, even if they take some heroic steps, as have been bandied about, closing several hundred stores, things of that sort.
Professor, what do you see for the future when it comes to Macy's? I mean, another flawed department store there, hurting going into this pandemic, again, very reliant on mall space. Do you see Macy's maybe perhaps having to file for bankruptcy, or might it emerge from this pandemic with a much smaller footprint?
I think it's fair to say that all of the retailers, and Macy's is included, that was struggling going into this crisis are highly unlikely to come out in any kind of reasonable shape. Macy's, we're told, is looking to put on $5 billion of additional debt to enable them to come out. Well, they don't have the kind of debt overhang that Neiman Marcus had or that JCPenney currently has. But add $5 billion to their balance sheet and couple that with a business strategy that's basically been dead stop stuck for several years, and I don't think there's a future there. I don't think they're in as financial jeopardy as others at the moment, but they're also tethered to many of these malls. And the question is, where is the customer going? Well, they're clearly going online. They were doing that before the pandemic. They're certainly not going to stop going online. In fact, online business is going to accelerate at an incredible clip coming out of the crisis, in my opinion. And where does that leave Macy's? It leaves Macy's nowhere.
Mark, before we let you go, JCPenney's CEO was handed out a bonus of $4.5 million. That is not the optics of that are absolutely dreadful, especially when they have furloughed most of their workforce. Is that type of bonus payment, is that normal in a situation like this with a company headed towards bankruptcy?
Well, I don't know what normal is in this day and age, but historically, as companies have gone into 11, as retailers have gone into 11, there's been a deal made with creditors to support retention bonuses, retention strategies to keep the key executives on board. it's a bit unusual to announce something like that before a filing. So I'm not sure what drives the decision to do that. This is a chicken and egg issue. If you don't have your key players in place, there's no possibility of emergence. If you announce something like this, you set all sorts of people's hair on fire, especially in the crisis that we're in now. So it's a no-win situation for everyone involved.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Professor Mark Cohen of Columbia Business School, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
You bet.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.